Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, and also good night for everyone. Today we will study about Spoilage, Rework, and also scrap in job costing. So for the materials, you can see the video in Ma'am Evony YouTube channel, and for Ma'am Evony YouTube channel, you can check on our description video. Also today we will do the exercise only. And okay, without further ado, let's do the problem number 1. Problem number 1, HRD is a manufacturer of writing products for aspiring indie authors. Giovanni Agustinus, the plant manager of HRD, obtains the following information for job number 3 in October 2020. A total of 270 units were started and 20 spoiled units were detected and rejected at final inspection, yielding 250 good units. The spoiled units were normal spoilage, and costs assigned prior to the inspection point are 1,200 per unit. The current disposal price of the spoiled units is 200 rupiah per unit. And when the spoilage is detected, the spoiled goods are inventoried at 200 per unit. So the first question is, what is the normal spoilage rate? Okay, so in order to calculate the normal spoilage rate, let's take a look on the left side in the spreadsheet. Normal spoilage rate is units of normal spoilage divided by total goods of unit completed. Therefore, you only need to first is write the units of normal spoilage, which is 20. It is written in the question. And then divided it with total goods unit completed, which is 250 goods units. So please note that this number is only for the total goods units completed, not all the goods units that produce. Okay, so the result is 0.08 or 8%. So therefore, this is the normal spoilage rate. Okay, that's all for number 1. And then let's moving on to the second question. Prepare the journal entries to record the normal spoilage, assuming the following. First is the spoilage is related to a specific job. So when the spoilage is specific, therefore we only need to calculate the disposal value, because the cost related to spoilage is already assigned to that specific job, and therefore all we need to do is only calculate the disposal value. And what is the disposal value? So the disposal value equals to disposal price multiplied by the total of spoilage, the normal spoilage. Okay, so it is 200 times 20 units. 200 is the disposal price, while the 20 is the spoiled units detected. And how about the journal entry? The journal entry is material control in debit side. Meanwhile, in the credit side is work in process control. And don't forget to add job number 3. And for the number, it is just like what I said before, it is disposal price, which is 200 times the normal spoilage units, which is 20. Therefore, the material control in debit side is 4,000, and the work in process control is also 4,000. It's not working, okay. Okay, so that's it for spoilage related to a specific job. And then second is if the spoilage is common to all jobs. So if the spoilage is common to all jobs, therefore we have to recognize the cost. However, the cost is not assigned to that job, but it is recognized as manufacturing overhead. And how to calculate the manufacturing overhead? Manufacturing overhead for spoilage is difference between cost assigned and disposal value times the spoilage units, which is the cost assigned to this job is 1,200. And then the disposal value is 200 times the spoilage units, which is 20. Therefore, the manufacturing overhead is 20,000. Okay, so next is journalize the spoilage for common to all jobs. The first one is debiting materials control. And then after that, manufacturing overhead control. And then for the credit side is work in process control. And don't forget to add job number 3. For material control, is the same like the first one. Like this one, when we calculate for spoilage related to specific job, therefore you only need to copy the number, which is 4,000. And for manufacturing overhead control, it's 20,000, just like our calculation before. And for work in process, therefore we only need to sum material control and manufacturing overhead control. Okay, so it is 24,000. Okay, that's all for the second question. And then the third question is, the spoilage is considered to be abnormal spoilage. So if the spoilage is abnormal, we will recognize the cost related to the spoilage as loss from abnormal spoilage. And actually, the number is still the same, just like the second one. So the difference is only in the journal process. We did not recognize manufacturing overhead control, but we recognize it as loss from abnormal spoilage. So here we go. First is material control. The number is still the same, 4,000. And then second one is loss from abnormal spoilage. The number is also still the same, 20,000. And then work in process control in debit side. And once again, don't forget to add job number 3 in the work in process control journal. And it is also 24,000. Okay, that's all for number 1. Now let's move to second question, or problem number 2. So for problem number 2, assume that the 6 spoil units of HRB, well, it is still related to the previous question in problem 1. Job number 3 can be reworked for a total cost of 1,750. A total cost of 9,500 associated with these units has already been assigned to job number 3 before the rework. Prepare the journal entries for the rework, assuming the following. First, the job is related to a specific job. Second, the rework is common to all jobs. And then third, the rework is considered to be abnormal. So it is quite easy. All you have to do is only copy the total cost. You don't need to do the calculation because it is already stated that the total cost is 1,750. What makes it different is the journalize, and you will see it later. Okay, first, for the first scenario, the rework is related to specific job, and therefore we will recognize it as working process control, job number 3 on the debit side, and then on the credit side is various accounts. And then the number is 1,750, and same goes for the credit side. And second scenario is if the rework is common to all jobs. Therefore, the debit side is manufacturing overhead control, and then the credit side is various accounts. And the number is still the same. While for the third scenario, if the rework is considered to be abnormal, the debit side is loss from abnormal rework, and the credit side is various account. Okay, so that's all for problem number 2. It's quite easy. Okay, so let's move on to the third question. Okay. The third question is, assume that job number 3 of HRB generates normal scrap with a total sales value of 540. It is assumed that the scrap returned to the storeroom is sold quickly, and prepare the journal entries for the recognition of scrap, assuming the following. First, the value of scrap is immaterial and scrap is recognized at the time of sale. So if the scrap is immaterial and then it is recognized at the time of sale, therefore for the debit side, we have to recognize the cash we received, or if the scrap is sold on account, therefore it is account receivable. Okay, so first is cash or account receivable, because yeah, it is to realize the cash we received, or if it's sold on account, then it is account receivable. And for credit side, we recognize the scrap revenue. Yeah, it is as simple as that. And then for the number, just write the sales value of the scrap, which is 540. And for the second scenario, the value of scrap is material, is related to specific job, and scrap is recognized at the time of sale. So for the debit side is cash or account receivable, while for the credit side, since it is related to specific job, therefore we have to recognize the work in process control, job number 3, and the number is still the same, 540. The third is, oh, sorry, I think I read down on the wrong side. Okay, next, the value of scrap is material, is common to all jobs, and scrap is recognized at the time of sale. So for the debit side is cash or account receivable, while for the credit side, because it is common, therefore we have to recognize manufacturing overhead control. $540. That's for the third question. And then for the fourth question, the value of scrap is material, and scrap is recognized as inventory at the time of production and is recorded at its net realizable value. So first, let's recognize when it is recognized as inventory. Therefore, the first journal is materials control, and then on the credit side is WIP or work in process control. Job number 3. $540 and 540. And later, when the scrap is sold, we have to recognize it as cash or account receivable, and then materials control on the credit side. 540. Okay, so once again, please note that the second journal is the journal that you have to make if the scrap is sold. Okay, that's all for number 3. Let's moving on to the last question or problem number 4. Okay, problem number 4. SPA Corporation manufactures a sophisticated controller that is compatible with a variety of gaming consoles. Excluding rework costs, the cost of manufacturing one controller is $800. This consists of 245 indirect materials, 280 in direct manufacturing labor, and 275 in manufacturing overhead. Maintaining a reputation for quality is critical to SPA. Any defective units identified at the inspection point are sent back for rework. It costs SPA $150 to rework each defective controller, including 54 indirect materials, 58 in direct manufacturing labor, and 38 in manufacturing overhead. In October 2020, SPA manufactured 1,400 controllers, 70 of which required rework. Of the 70 controllers, 45 were considered normal rework common to all jobs, and the other 25 were considered abnormal rework. The first question, prepare journal entries to record the accounting for both the normal and abnormal rework. Okay, so for the normal rework, we will recognize it as manufacturing overhead control. Don't forget that in the question, it is stated that the normal rework common to all jobs. Therefore, we have to recognize it as manufacturing overhead control. And then on the credit side, we will recognize first as materials control. And then second one is wages payable. And then last but not least is manufacturing overhead allocated. Okay, so let's do it from materials control. Okay, so in order to calculate the materials control, we need to multiply the cost of direct materials to rework the controller, which is 54, this one, and then multiply it with the total normal rework, which is 45. So it is 54, the cost of direct materials to rework the controller, times 45, the total normal rework. And then it is the total of materials control as 2,430. And for wages payable, it is the cost of direct manufacturing labor to rework the defective controller, which is 58 times the total of normal rework, which is 45. And therefore, the wages payable is 2,610. While for manufacturing overhead, we have to multiply the cost of manufacturing overhead to rework the defective controller, which is 38, by the total of normal rework, which is 45. And the total of manufacturing overhead allocated is 1,710. And then for manufacturing overhead control is the sum of materials control, wages payable, and manufacturing overhead allocated. So it is 6,750. Okay, that's for the normal rework. And then the second one is for abnormal rework. So for the abnormal rework, we will recognize it as loss from abnormal rework. While for the credit side, it is the same when we do journalizing for normal rework. But we have to calculate it once again because the total of abnormal rework is not the same like the normal rework. Okay, so for materials control is 54 times the total of abnormal rework, which is 25. For wages payable is 58 times 25. And for manufacturing overhead allocated is 38 times 25. Okay, so let's see the result. Okay, for material control is 1,350, for wages payable is 1,450, and for manufacturing overhead allocated is 950. Therefore, the total of loss from abnormal rework is the sum of materials control, wages payable, and manufacturing overhead allocated. It is 3,750. Okay. That's all for the first question. And then for the second question, what were the total rework costs of controllers in October 2020? Okay, so the total rework cost is as simple as the sum of manufacturing overhead control and loss from abnormal rework. Therefore, the total rework cost is 6,750 plus 3,750. Therefore, the total rework cost is 10,500. Hey, wait. Okay. Okay, that's all for spoilage, rework, and scrap input costing. And thank you.